Read the Gemara. Now the Gemara will have. All right. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi brachas. We are up to Perek Beis Halacha Gimel in the Ois V'Hadar's edition. We are going to learn today Daf Chav Beis. We left off on Daf Chav Aleph Amid Beis, 5 lines before the bottom of the Amid, and we are learning the sugya, the topic of tefillin. I want to make a correction from something that was said yesterday. That we mentioned that guf naki doesn't only mean shelo yafiach, which is not to vent air, but I said that it also means one should not relieve oneself going to the bathroom, and that really should be clarified. Theoretically, one is not allowed to defecate. That is part of the guf naki. But theoretically, one is allowed to urinate while wearing tefillin. I know it sounds weird. In actuality, we don't do that because when a person urinates, it's common for them to vent air. I'm mentioning that because as we already learned yesterday about Rabbi Yechanon's diligence in never walking 4 cubits without tefillin. And if he took it off, he began to learn about the bathhouse. Did he take it off in the middle room or in the innermost room? Rabbi Yechanan, as we'll see, actually would urinate with his tefillin on because he was certain that he will not vent air. And the concept of, for him, wearing tefillin the whole time was that important. Now, we're going to start today learning, as we already mentioned, about women who are exempt, and therefore not only are they exempt, but they are not allowed to wear tefillin. We're going to learn some more halachas regarding the bathhouse. As we mentioned, there were 3 rooms in the bathhouse. Every city had that. These were public bathhouses. There was the bayis hachitzoin, the outermost room. There was the beis hansoy, the middle room. There was the innermost room. Right in the outermost room, people would remove their outer garments, but they would take it with them in their hands to the middle room. There it would be the bathhouse attendants. They would give it to the bathhouse attendants. Over there, people would also take off the rest of their garments. All right, and then they would walk into the innermost room where people would actually go to the bath or to the schwitz, and therefore almost everyone there was unclothed, even though we learned yesterday a sheet of Rabbi Yitzchak that some people even walked into the innermost room with some undergarments and they only removed it there, but at least the people were completely ungarbed. We will see how this affects other halachas as well. We're going to be learning also some dinim about how we are not allowed to say Dvarim Shebekadusha in a Beis HaKisei, in a latrine. We're going to be discussing whether one may eat, whether one may sleep with tefillin or not, going into a latrine with tefillin, or at least holding the tefillin in one's hand, covered by a beged. Obviously, if it's going to be in a kiss, it's going to be even better. And we're going to at least conclude, God willing, the end of Chav Beis Amid Beis, with Elisha Bal Kenafayim, whose story was recorded in Babli Shabbos Memtes, and I think Kuf Lamed, how a miracle happened with him when there was religious persecution, and he wore tefillin nonetheless, and when the Romans were chasing him, he removed the tefillin and he cupped them in his hands, and they asked him, what do you have in his hands? And he says he has the doves, and a miracle happened, and indeed there were doves in his hand, and they called him Elisha Bal Kenafayim, and the Gemara is going to speak about that people on his level should still wear tefillin the whole day, versus the rest of us, we wear it when we daven, right? What we dafka don't wear it, aside because of the guf naki and because of the concept of hesach hadas, as God willing, we will learn more today. So again, without any further ado, Daf Chav Beis Amid Beis, 5 lines before the bottom of the Amid, says the Gemara, right at the beginning of the line, Taman Tanina. We learned in the Mishnah, which will be in the next chapter, that Nashim Vavadim, women, and Avadim refers to Canaanite slaves. They are both exempt from the reciting of the Shema, and they are exempt from putting on tefillin. Now, the topic of Shema, and why are they exempt of Shema? We're going to have this in Yerushalmi and Daf Lamed Zayin. But now here on Daf Chav Aleph, Daf Chav Beis, we're going to be discussing of Nashim Minai. Why should women be exempt? Now, let me just explain how this question has to be clarified, because l'chora, it's a non-question. Why is it a non-question? The Mishnah, right? We have this in Kedushin Chavtes. We're going to have it later in this Masech that tells us the rule that any positive commandment, any mitzvah say shazman gerama nashim are peturas. Shema is clearly a mitzvah say shazman gerama. There's specific times. You said b'shach b'cha, you said b'uv kumecha. So what's the kasha? Why would they be exempt? So for that, let's go to the Rashi Elio, and for that, let's go to the Rashi Elio. Oh, that writes Gavaldik. The third line before the bottom of the Amit. Don't say keeping the iskish lemezuzah. That's really the kasha. In the first parsha of Shema, it's v'shinamtom, ukshartom, uchsaftom. After the Torah tells us the mitzvah to bind tefillin, it says afterwards, we say this every day, uchsaftom amzuz b'secha v'sharecha. So one might have thought that since the Torah juxtaposes tefillin and mezuzah, just like women are obligated to have a mezuzah, so one might have thought because of the smichos that woman should be obligated to put on tefillin. That's the kasha of the Mishnah. To which the Mishnah answers, no. That since it says in the second parsha of Shema, v'limadatem oisam as b'neichem, and from there we learned v'loyas b'noisechem. From there we learned that women are exempt from the mitzvah of learning Torah. Women are obligated to learn Torah in order to know how to keep the mitzvahs that they're chayiv to keep. But that's not really the mitzvah of learning Torah. You're obligated to keep Shabbos. Of course, if you have to keep Shabbos, you have to learn how to keep Shabbos. But there is a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, which is to learn Torah, not only to know what to do, Lishma, to learn Torah, because it's a mitzvah to learn. That women are exempt. Now, in the Parshas V'hoyim Shemaya, after V'limadatem oismas b'neichem, what does it say? That's a kasha. Oh, the mitzvah, that's a kasha. It's not a mitzvah sensation because learning Torah is by day and by night. Okay, but the Torah exempts women from the obligation of learning Torah. Now afterwards it says, actually prior to which it says ukshartem. In the second portion it's ukshartem, v'limadatem. So the Torah juxtaposes tefillin to learning. So we learn eshu chayiv b'talmud Torah chayiv b'tefillin. Noshim she'enam chayav b'talmud Torah enam chayav b'tefillin. I just want to give a hemshech to the Rashi earlier, which is like this. The kasha was, why do we make a hekesh from the first parsha between ukshartom, uchsaftom? And the answer is that tefillin is samuch to mezuzah only once. Tefillin is not juxtaposed to mezuzah in the second parsha, because in the second parsha the seder is ukshartem v'limadatem uchsaftom. So there's one smichus to tefillin. Tefillin in both parshiyos is juxtaposed to Torah. Vishinamtam, ukshartam, ukshartem v'limadatem. Beautiful. So double smichus trumps single smichus. That's really the answer. Okay. So the Mishnah writes that women are exempt. Now asks the Gemara, I have a kasha, and we're going to go that we're learning a braisa that will be corrected. That's the way we'll learn Pshat. It says in a braisa. I'm sorry, not a brayso. There's a statement the Gemara is making. That Michal Bas Kushi, who's the Kushi? So in Tehillim, in the beginning, Kapitel Zayin, it says Kush Ben Yemini. Who's Kush Ben Yemini? Shol HaMelech. The Chazal say that just like a person who's dark is distinguished if you live amongst white people, that the tzidkis of Shol was so great, the people don't understand the greatness of Shol HaMelech. When you look at him, he's a whole different category of a tzad. So that's why he's called a Kushi. So Michal Bas Kushi is the daughter of Shaul HaMelech, one of David HaMelech's wives. She would wear tefillin. And the Ishta Daft Chav Beis Amud Aleph, another behavior that was uncommon, the wife of Yoina, of the prophet Yoina, she would go up to Oilal Regalim, and on both of these women, the Chachamim did not lodge a protest against them. Now, we learned yesterday about Guf Naki. We explained at the end of last class that women don't have the capacity, begashmias, to control whether the flow will leave their body at what time. And that goes against the gufnaki. If women are obligated midoiraisa, then the chachamim would be the ones to say that women should not wear it because of gufnaki. But it's shaykh for a woman then to say, I know either I'm very regular or I'm already after menopause. I'm not included in that fear. I'm not saying that this is something that we do nowadays. Nowadays, when the chachamim give a gzeira, there's no such a thing like, I'm not going to build a raft. Let me go swimming in a lake. No, the chachamim says you can't swim. You can't swim. The kudah. But in those times, such a thing would be understandable. If midoiraisa women are exempt, and on top of that, the chachamim say, not only are you exempt, but it's a gufnaki, then no woman would put it on. And if midoiraisa woman would be chayiv, because of, let's say, the smichos to mezuzah, and even though the Rabbanim would have said, Yataka chayiv, don't do it. It's shaykh for a woman to say, I'm going to do it. If, and that's why v'lo michu. But if women are exempt midoiraisa, exempt, and on top of that, everyone knows that the Chachamim says women should not, then the Taka should not, period, nakuda. So how did she do it? Now, I want to speak about just for a moment the wife of Yoina. What was the issue of going up Ledegel? When we go up Ledegel, that's a clear, the Torah says, Yeror kol zechurcha. The Torah says only men should come up. When we come up, we have to bring a carbon oilas re'iyah. If a woman were to opt to go, she cannot bring an oilas re'iyah because she's not obligated to bring it. When you bring a carbon that you're not obligated to bring, you're doing a big sin because it's really called chulun azara. Now, an oilah can be brought as a donation, but there's a marasayim. When a woman would come with a carbon, even if she said, "No, this is not from my chiv, I'm just donating a carbon oilah," people would think that she's bringing an oilas re'iyah, and it gives a bad appearance, which is why women did not go aliyas l'regel. She went. And the Chachamim were not moicha. So we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on Michol Bashol. So how can you tell me that women midoiraisa are exempt? If they are midoiraisa exempt, on top of that, the Chachamim brought up the gufnaki issue, then no one should have done it. So says the Gemara, no, you have the wrong version. It's not that they were not moicha. They were moicha. Ishta shel yoina hushva. The Chachamim told her, don't come in. Don't go, don't come anymore. Michal Baskushi, yes, Michu biyada Chachamim. And that's the right version. Indeed, authenticating the Mishnah we'll have later that women are exempt midoiraisa, and on top of that, there's the concern of gufnaki, and that therefore, when the Chachamim says women should not, the taka should not. Let's go weiter. We learned yesterday that the bathhouse, the 3 rooms in the bathhouse we just mentioned in our intro. So, Tony, we learned in a Braisa that these are the rules regarding what one could do, what one cannot do in either one of these rooms. Nichnas lamerchatz. Guys, let me just give numbers to the rooms, okay? You have room Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. Aleph is the outermost room. That's where people remove, but people walk in there with their clothes. So you can say the roiv of the people are clothed. Even people that remove their clothes, if they wear undergarments, they don't remove the undergarments. So roiv people are clothed. The middle room, that is where people generally remove the clothes and they give it to the bathhouse attendants. But still, some people go in there with clothes. If people are just undergarments, some yes, some not. In the innermost room, room C, room Gimel, with the bath, that's where, even according to Rabbi Yitzchak, that Rabbi Yechanan only took his tefillin there. The Ruba people are already naked. Okay, and therefore, says the Braisa, Nichnas lamerchatz, when you go to room Aleph, the outermost room, people are still dressed. There, Yesh Sham Mikra, we're going to learn the version Mikra. You can read the Shema there. Utfila, you can daven there. You can daven there. It's not called the house of where people are not dressed modestly. The Ein Sarach that you are allowed to do She'ela Shalom. Greeting a person, what's the issue with greeting a person? How do you greet a person by a You say, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom is also a name of God. And therefore, there are certain places in which, because of the Ervas Davar, and it's a Mokem of Kedusha, we don't even say Shalom. We don't say the word Shalom. But you can say it there. You could. In the outermost room, huh? Oh, we'll see. In a mikvah, you don't say Shalom. Today in the mikvah is different. When you walk in the mikvah, you're not allowed to say Shalom. Say, hi, how are you? That's different. No, really. Okay. Now, nois and tefillin, not only that, you can put tefillin on that room. And no need to say that if you are already wearing tefillin, shalom yachos. Okay. That is the outermost. Now, the Bryce is going menakotz alakotz. Now, in chamber Gimel, Now goes in the innermost room. That's what the innermost room is, where people stand completely naked. Then ain sham sheila shalom. You can't even say shalom aleichem. And now the ain sarach that you can't do mikra and you can't do tefillah. And not only that, even if you entered already wearing tefillin, look at the words of this brayso. This words of the brayso, Taka sounds like Rabbi Yitzchak. No, you have to take it off there. Not they have to take it off in the middle room. And there, there, yeah, you enter the room, you got to think of your tefillin. The ain sarach that you're not allowed to put on tefillin. Now, what about the middle room? You take it off as you enter. Those are not crazy. You enter, they take it off. So obviously, when we spoke yesterday that there were bathhouse attendants that were primarily in the middle room, there must have been also bathhouse attendants in the inner room. It was a spa. It was in the innermost room. In the outer room, there were no attendants. In the outer room, there were no attendants. The attendants we saw yesterday in the Charedim, they stood in the middle room, and Yidden, going for going. There must have been people there. There was also a schwitz. Something could have broken. You need a towel. It's a spa. It's not. It was a thing. Because of the plumbing, and everyone has it in their house. Even when you go to a fancy spa, but I don't know exactly. You go to certain spas in LA, maybe there are people there also. People are thinking of the Russian schwitz over here. I know Vlad's eyes went up. I know the Russian schwitz on Pico. No, the question is where. I have been there because there are attendants that they go into the place in the locker room. That would be like the middle room. I see that like the middle room. Do they go into the inner room? I'm a dabse. Yeah. The eucalyptus stops spritzing in the schwitz. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, right. Now, in the middle room, okay. Now, concerning that's miksasam arum, miksasam levushim, in the room where some people are here, some people like that. So I guess, yeah, you are allowed to say the word shalom aleichem, but the ain't shalom loy mikra v'loy tefillah. However, clearly, guys, you don't have to remove your tefillin, but you can't put your tefillin. Yes. And now the Braisa says like this, and this is going to be a very important charedim we'll have to learn to over here. Aval ein oloifshan goes back on the Reisha. 1 second. What did we learn in the Reisha? That in the outermost room, Shmuli, you can even put on your tefillin. You know what it says over here? Aval ein oloifshan, but you can't put on, it goes on the Reisha. You cannot put it on the outermost room until you leave even the Bayis HaChitza. Now, how is that not a contradiction? So that the Charedim, around 13 lines from the top, explains beautifully. He says, yeah, if you enter from the street, Shmuley, you can put on your tefillin in the outer room. But once you went to the bath, and now you are leaving, now you can't put it on in the outermost room. Let's read it inside the logic. In other words, if I'm coming from the street, let's say it's no. We learned that I go into the outer. I can even put them on, and I can daven there. But by medvarim amurim that I'm coming from the street. The last part of the brayso is if I went into, I actually bathed. I went to the mikveh. I took a schwitz, and now I'm going out. Now I cannot put it even in the outermost room. If I'm coming from the street in, I could put it in the outermost room. If I actually took the mikveh, I took the bath, and now I'm coming out. Now explain. Even didn't we learn to ask the Charedim that you're allowed to put it in the outermost room? So he answers, a person who entered from there, why did he go in there? He's not going to the bath. He needs to rest a little bit. A person that we're speaking about, a person who likes wearing tefillin the whole time. So he thought that you're not allowed to enter with tefillin. He walks in there just to rest. He's not going into the bath. So Zakmanem, Herzachain, you can put it back on. If a person went to the bath, okay, now back in the Gemara, by the way, says the Gemara, as we learned yesterday, concerning the behavior of Rabbi Yechanan, this B'raisa, Messiah Kai, the Rabbi Yitzchak, begin Rabbi Yechanan. That says that Rabbi Yechanan did not remove it in the end of the middle room. No, he said more, that Ad Yaakov Tor Musra, until Yaakov, the bathhouse attendant, he would wear his tefillin. Because Taka, we learned over here that Cholzin only the Bais Apnimi. Okay, now says the Gemara, Rabbi Yirmiyah boy commented Rabbi Zera. Let me ask you a question. If the merchatz is only open during the summer and the whole bathhouse is not functioning during the winter, you know why? Because people didn't bathe during the winter. Why did I bathe during the after? They're not sweating. Yeah, you know how clean we are compared to them? Huh? Well, they had coals in there. No, they could have made it. It wasn't important. I have to bathe. They're clean. It's winter. You can go 5 months without bathing. So the question is, do the dinim apply during a bulk of months where the whole thing is not functioning? So Amalei, so he tells Rabbi Yirmiyah that merchatz, the dinim of a merchatz is afal pi she'enoi merchatzes, even if it's not functioning. And similarly, all of the dinim that we'll learn soon regarding a beis hakisei, right, regarding a latrine, afal pi she'ein sham tsoya. By the way, we mentioned quickly about the mezuzah outside of a bathroom. That's why today all the dinim of a bathroom apply, even though a bathroom today has no tsoya in it because of the plumbing. Oh, makes no difference. Now, says the Gemara, Mar Ukva, based on this concept, that the laws of Kedusha that we abstain from because of the place of the Beis HaKisei is applicable even when there's no excrement in the bathroom. Mar Ukva says, Ahon Chazira, this is also similar to the din of a Chazer, that a Chazer's snout is mamish in excrement. He does that. And therefore, when you're facing a chazer, let's say you can't say Dvarim Shabbat Kedusha, that is true even if the chazer smells is clean. Like the Beis HaKisei, even if there's no tzaya in. Beis HaKisei mitoltolo, Gavaldik, Afa Pisha Ein Shem tzaya. That's what it means. That proves it fits, is aligned one with the other. Now, Rabbi Yoina asked the following question, this type of putrid matter. Now, what is it exactly? I don't think it's seaweed. But there's a certain mud that comes al geif yama, that is on the seashore. It's something that has a bad odor or it's something that looks disgusting. Mahu, does this have the law of tsoya or not? Amar Rabbi Ami Asya. Rabbi Ami, the doctor, says that Hoyre Rabbi Yirmiyah, he ruled the following, that if this disgusting matter that was spit out from the sea is in front of the person, first of all, ma'averlei bepilius, you have to cover it with a kerchief. You should not see it. That's if it's in front of you. Now, says the Charedim, I'm adding Pashut, teaching over here. Says the Charedim, 2 lines under the Gemara, Veloy samchin Allah, says the Charedim, meaning if it's not in front of you, if it's you don't see it, if you don't see it, you don't have to cover it. Nevertheless, I'm reading now words in the Charedim, lo yikra samuch lo. You can't read it while you're near it. What must you do? You have to distance yourself from it for ames, even if it's behind you. In other words, there's 2 dinim over here, guys. I'm not even going into an odor. By the way, when there's a bad odor, you have to distance yourself 4 amas from where the bad odor ends. But we're not talking about the odor over here. If you see it, you have to cover it. It means even if it's 100 amas away, if you have good sight, you see something excrement or dinoi like soya, you can't say Dvarim Shabbat Kedusha. If it's behind you, you don't have to cover it, but you have to be away 4 amas. That's the way the Charedim touches these words. That if it's in front of you, maverlei bepilius. If it's behind you, veloy samchin, meaning it's not samachloi, then don't read it if you're within daladats. Okay. Now, let's go back, guys. We're learning about people that spend the whole day with tefillin. So how do you live? In other words, we understand that there's something called hesach hadas, aside of gufnaki. Gufnaki, okay, gufnaki, if a person is able, I can identify, you cannot be a mafia. Sometimes if a person has stomach ailments or something like that, they wouldn't wear tefillin the whole day. But if they could, they could. But what about hesach hadas? So we have to define that better. And here, it will be defined through the following topic. Rab Zera says in the name, let's go with the version, Rabbi Abba Bar Yirmiyah, that even while you're wearing your tefillin, oichel behem achilas arai, you are allowed to have a snack, but ve'ena oichel behem achilas kava. But you're not allowed to have a permanent meal. I want to read the Rasher Ilyu. There's many ways of learning this. The Rasher Ilyu, guys, is in the bottom of the Amid, on the second column, 3 lines before the bottom. It's worth it. Why? Meaning, first of all, the you're having a meal, take them off. Shema, yishtaked, bitfilah, we are afraid that you'll get drunk. And when a person is drunk, then their behavior is v'yizgana. It's not going to be nice. Okay? Now, back inside the psak over here. Of Rab Zaydo, Yoshein Bohen, it's shocking. You can sleep, Shinas Arai, a nap. A nap is defined as less than 30 minutes with tefillin. But ve'ena Yoshen Shinas Keva. But you cannot sleep a proper sleep. Now, why can you not sleep Shinas Arai? Again, says that Asher Eliyahu, 2 lines by the bottom. They were not afraid that even that you're going to vent here. Can you identify with this? I don't know. Maybe they had more control over their bodies even when they were sleeping. Not Shinas Kava. Before we turn the page, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, you know what? Before you turn the page, so I want to say in the Bavli, there's another nuance to that. The nuance is that when people take a nap, they might go into a sleep. So if I'm not mistaken, over there, the Gemara says that aside of it only being a nap, they have to be in a position that you can't sleep long. I think your head is on your hands are on your knees. Head in between the knees. In other words, there was a certain, today, even when you're here and you put your head down, didn't you see in yeshiva a guy sleeping 5 hours like this? You can sleep. And an airplane, if you go economy class, you can sleep. Not comfortable, you can sleep more than 30 minutes. So just another detail that's not mentioned here. But I want to speak out the following. Before you turn to it, we have time, and this is Gavalik. Let's learn inside the Charedim. He quotes a Machlokes Rishonim, which is huge. Yosher Memshinas Arai. The Charedim on Chav Beis Amud Aleph, the third line under the Gemara. The Chein Kasav Arosh, the Perik Misha Mesu, the Chodam Reina Besuka, Sha'asher Lishon Shinas Arai. Hainu Kishein Biyodish Lif. There's another layer that many people would take their tefillin off and hold it in their hands. There, if you have your tefillin in your hands, if you sleep even just a little bit, what's in your hand will fall out of your hand. That's another thing. Aval bezeh, but when you're wearing it, it's on your head, mutter. Okay, that's first of all. Now, the imtoimar has a bomb question. Everything we're mentioning, we really that Asher Eliyahu. Well, you're going to vent here, you're not going to vent here. He says, what about hesach hadas? How do you define hesach hadas? You have to have kavanah, and you cannot divert your attention. What does that mean? Isn't sleeping diverting the attention? So it's a very important definition of that. Even if you're only dozing, and that he writes, means when you're standing b'schoik, when you're standing b'kalosh, when you're behaving in a disrespectful way. That's called hesach hadas. But when you're standing, when you're working business, they worked tefillin the whole day. Well, you think they didn't work? They did business. That's not called hesach hadas. You're doing your profession. Even though you're not thinking about your tefillin, mamish, you're not mamish. Hesach hadas. And therefore, when you're misnam name, you're not only it's not hesach hadas. You know what happens when you're misnam name? You stop thinking shtusim. Even better. There's a Rambam. Let's go weiter. This is a Gavaldik Rabbi. Okay. So that's that. Now, turning to the Chav Beis Amud Beis. Is tanoi tanei bevarach pamachas. In one place we find that you make a bracha once a day. You wear it the whole day. You make a bracha once a day. Now we learned already yesterday whether it's one bracha, whether it's 2 brachas. That's a machlekes Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, as we spoke about yesterday. But istanoi, there's another Tana that says that you recite a blessing on the tefillin twice a day. Now, 1 second, let's clarify what scenario are they talking about. And there are 2 ways of understanding these 2 braysos. Man demar pam achos nicho. The one that says you make a bracha once in nicho, that doesn't have to be explained. Like, why would you have to make a bracha twice? Man demar, man de amar. The one that says mavarach shtei pa'amim. Why? Ha'achal v'inoni loy. That's a person who ate an achilas kiva. Now, what did we just learn? That if you have achilas kiva, what should you have done, Shmuli? you should have removed it. What happens if a person did not remove it? So that's where there's a machlokes tanaim. So one Tana says, since you didn't remove it, why would you make another bracha? The other Tana says, no, since you should have removed it and you didn't, you got to make another bracha because you should have removed it. That's one way of understanding it. And on that says Rab Zeira, no. Omar Rab Zeira Kame, let's go again with the Rebbe Abba Bari Yirmiyam. No. If the person ate achilas kava, both braisos would hold you have to make a bracha again after you ate the meal, because since you should have taken it off, you got to make another bracha. But we're speaking about a person who ate achilas arai. Now we go about it. So even though we just learned before, about hesach hadas, that's why I wanted to learn that. Yeah, the Braisa says that when you have achilas arai, you don't have to take it off. But this Tana holds that you should have taken it off, because that's already called hesach hadas. No, it's working would be okay. Eating, I think people are more relaxed when they eat. That type of, I'm relaxed, that's already called hesach hadas. When you're working, even though you're not focused on your tefillin, you're focused on something serious. So since this Tana holds you should have taken it off, you're thinking. Makes sense? Okay, I'll say this. I remember as a child. That's it. I would say like this. I remember when I was a child, they're snacking, they're not eating. They're taking it off. They're taking off the tefillin. Because because they would have wine when they ate, even for breakfast. I remember in shul, and all Hasidic shuls, make a l'chaim in the morning. It was always common for me to see a person with talis and tefillin. And I remember it used to bother me. My father said, no, you can do it. It was to have, that's the, to have a mazoinus, to make a l'chaim, even though you can say Shema Yishtaket. These Russian Yidden Shema Yishtaket, they needed a case, not a little l'chaim. Okay, right. Now, says the Gemara Rab Ze'eda b'Shem Rabba Bar Yirmiyah. Lo yikonis adam lo beis hamayim. Now, beis hamayim, according to some people, means a place where there's only a urinal. We won't learn pshat that way, because we're going to go with the Charedim says beis hamayim means a latrine, a beis hakisei. That's it, a beis hakisei. You're not allowed to enter a beis hakisei, not usfarav with your books, nor with your tefillin on your hands, which means surely you're not allowed to wear it. Shita, you don't have to wear it. Not only that, can you enter in your hands? You can't do that. Now, says the Gemara, Rabbi Yechanan, God have a sifra b'yadim, and he was holding a sefer in his hand. Have a yov little choyron, at an olive, la'acher, right? He would give it to someone else, like la'acher, la'achron. Kab haven't tefillin love, but when he was wearing tefillin, oh wow, he would remain with his tefillin. That was what I said in the intro, just to correct it from yesterday, that theoretically you can urinate or wearing tefillin. The only reason why de facto we don't do that is because of Shema Yafiach while you're urinating. Rabbi Yechanan knew he would not urinate, and that goes back. Rabbi Yechanan was very careful not to take off his tefillin ever. He only did it where he needed. Says the Gemara, Mas Nisa l'choida avakash. You quoted me at Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah and Amayra. I have a brisa that is pliga, which can't be. What does it say in the brisa? That nichnas adam lebeis hamayim, a person is allowed to enter to a latrine. Now, whether it says usfarav, certainly it says utfilav biyadai. Utfilav biyadai. Now, says the Charedim, why didn't we ask on Rabbi Yechanan? Why are we only asking on Rabbi Yirmiyah on Abba? That's a good kasha. We just said that Rabbi Yechanan, the sefer he would give, but he would walk him with his tefillin. Says the Charedim. Abba Rabbi Yechanan loy the efshad the moed the have a shar l'chanos b'sefer. Because Rabbi Yechanan could have agreed with this brisa that you are allowed to walk with a sefer in a latrine. Elamai, he was machmer. Get it? Beautiful. Abol b'tfilah. But by tefillin, why was he not machmer with tefillin? Because there's another part of wearing tefillin. And you know what that is? Aside of the mitzvah, tefillin is shomer you. Tefillin guards you. Right? The Rebbe's tefillin campaign in the times of a war. It's a shmira. Abba tefillin, he was not going to be machmer because b'shum shmirasei. So it's not a kasha on the way he was nahug. Problem is, Rabbi Yirmiyah says that you're not allowed to. It says you are allowed to. You can enter holding Sfarim and holding a tefillin. So Amar Rab Zeiram, that kaima Rab Abba Bar Yirmiyah, meaning he'll be Makayim it, he'll be Makayim the Braisa, for it not to contradict him, he'll interpret it that can be Yochel L'Loivshan. The Braisa is speaking about a time that you can enter with your tefillin, that you have enough time while you exit the latrine, it's still daytime, and therefore you are going to put it back on. And since you're going to put it back on, you want to have it with you to put it on immediately. So you can take it in your hand. Now I want to add another nuance. Taking it in your hand, doesn't mean that they would mamish walk in there with a sefer. They would cover it with their garment. They would take the tefillin off. They would keep it. The tefillin were little. They would put it in their hands. And then they would put their cloak over it, so it would be a little covered. Because Rabbi Yechanan, like I told you, he always leaned on the side of, he was not even going to vent ear when he urinated. He didn't want to take his tefillin ever. There was a shmir at the tefillin, so he didn't do it. People have to take off the. We are unable to urinate without venting air, or we cannot rely on ourselves that we'll have such a body control. So we have to take it off. Now the question is, if I have to take it off, do I have to leave it outside? So it depends. That's the way he's learning it. If I'm going to put it on afterwards, so don't leave it outside. Take it with you. Now, Taka, take it with you. Cover it with your hand. It wasn't disrespectful. And you're saying, but Rabbi Yechanan was disrespectful. He wore it. Okay, but I'm speaking about a case. It's gavaldik. And therefore, since mitzvah le'avid, you won't be able to do the mitzvah after you leave. So why would you bring them into a place where there is a certain element of bezoyin? Not an element of bezoyin that demands of Rabbi Yechanan to take it off. You have to wait. It's not the most respectful place. So if there's a purpose to take it in there, take it in there. What would be the purpose? That when you leave, you'll put it on right away. If you're going at a time that after you're leaving the bathroom, you're not putting it on again, then already leave it outside. That makes a lot of sense. Says the Gemara. Okay, let's go with this, that people would not enter the latrine with their tefillin. So who would they give it to? A chaver means to any other Jew. You know, what happened? The recipient, came a time where people were not the most honest people, and they would walk away, they would run away. Okay, so they made a takana. Listen, put them in the walls of the latrine. Now, 1 second. But I look at the Pnei Moshe. Pnei Moshe is at the end of the narrow lines. There were holes. The walls had holes. They were not holes that were facing inside the latrine. And what did you accomplish? But the point is that they were inside the mechitza of the Beis HaKisei, and we still allowed it. Why didn't people do it before? They felt, why would I put it in the wall that is the wall of the latrine? But when people began to steal the tefillin, now what? No one can take it in from the walls. I don't know how to explain that. Okay, that didn't happen. They maybe because there were a bunch of ganovim today, like they didn't even think about that. If you give it to a guy in the hand, he'll go away. But for a guy to mamish, take it out, that will not happen. However, which is a terrible story. What was the Oisa Maisa? It's tragic. So I'm back in the Pnei Moshe. So he says, but Talmud Echad, you see that by the end of the narrow line, second to last narrow line of Pnei Moshe. But Talmud Echad, it was a Talmud. He needed to go to the bathroom. He's wearing tefillin the whole day. He put the tefillin in these holes in the wall, the wall. What happened? A prostitute came and she took the tefillin. She wanted to smear this guy. And everyone recognizes this guy's tefillin. And she went into the Beis HaMedrash. And she says, look at what this guy gave me for my feet. And she had a proof. She had his tefillin. When that person heard what happened, he committed suicide. So from that story, back inside the Gemara, go and hold it in your hand. Now, go it in your hand, cover it with your beged. But don't leave your tefillin out there. Don't allow anyone to get hold of your tefillin. Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha b'shem Rabbi Zera Amar. Again, v'hu sheyia bayoim kedei leloifshan. It suffices for you to keep it in your hand, cover it in the beged. I'm going to mention avolamein bayoim kedei leloifshan. But again, the same logic, if after you're going to leave the bathroom, the latrine, it won't be, you're not going to put it back on again, then you're not allowed to bring them in. So we're going to say in a second, the lachain mitzvah liyavet behind is lamuhum of. So what do you have to do? That's the kasha. So they say over here, put them in a bag. Now I want to say like this. Let me tell you about a bag. Any article that's made with the purpose of it being used for the principle, like a tefillin bag, halachically is not considered a real proper covering. But if there is a tefach, if the bag has if the inner pocket is a tefach or more, halachically a tefach is considered the rishus by itself. Even a tefillin bag, we have big tefillin. I'll tell you about big tefillin. I think people wore smaller. The whole thing, not an empty space. The whole thing is a tefach size. And let's go. The Gemara says Miyasha. That's the name. Miyasha, who was Barbare, was the grandson of Shmuel Levi, says Man the of Tavus. If you want to do toiv, if you want to do good, right, then oisa lohen kis shel tefach. Then make, like I mentioned, make the bag, make sure it has a tefach. That's the best of the best. And on that, just to know, if you're putting your tefillin in a bag that was not made for your tefillin, it doesn't need to have a tefach. Okay. That was not made for tefillin, then you don't need a tefach. Then it's kavala. I want to say something. Our tefillin, the tefillin itself is a tefach. You have to. It goes together. People that wore tefillin the whole day, they had small tefillin. It goes together. People that wore small, people that are now going back to wearing tefillin the whole day, you have to have small. It's not comfortable. Maybe I'm wrong. That's the way I see it. But today we have the most muhudadik tefillin because we wear it for an hour. Now, 1 second. Now, you have it in the bag, and where do you put it? So we spoke about the shmira. There's a shmira aspect, and now there's another. Even though you're not wearing it, and now even though Rabbi Yochanan wore it, but there's something. And now v'noistan alibe, hang it over your heart. Matam shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. How great is that? In front of me means who's me? You know the story of the Alter Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, Zayda. That's the Zayda's beard. That's the Zayda's nose. The me is the heart. And v'kana makim, that when people walk today with the talis and tefillin or with the tefillin bag, so you can hold it, like a bezoyan. You can just hold your bag, hold it like this. But we hold it like this. You put your tefillin, that's the honorable way. You put it in a way under your arm, near your heart. Don't hold it like a grocery bag. That's what the Gemara is saying. And to conclude this sugya, Taman Amran, over there in Bavel, we say, again, we spoke out in the intro, we kitzur that on Shabbos, in Bavel, both on Mem Tes and on Daf Kuf Lamed, we have the story of Elisha Bal Kenafayim, that during the times of persecution, right, the whole sugya, that when the mitzvahs for which people were moiser nefesh is always strong in our hands, right? And the mitzvahs for which people were not moiser nefesh, and that went to tefillin. But except Elisha Bal Kenafayim, that if you're not like Elisha Bal Kenafayim, then lo yilbash tefillin, don't wear tefillin the whole time. Only wear it during davening. And let's conclude the Gemara reading the Charedim. Come on, Babavli, the Shabbos. Umufad is the last line of the Charedim that she'enoi Elisha, meaning you're not like Elisha, meaning she'enoi yachal lishmon atzmim lefichbem. If you don't feel that you can go the whole day without venting ear, do not wear tefillin the whole day. But it doesn't mean don't wear tefillin, God forbid. So the Pnei Moshe has to write the words. Like the last line of the Pnei which is the common practice nowadays. God willing, to be continued. Remember, finish this topic. Yes. Perfect. Rabbi.